We just made George listen to me try to convince Lotax to play the Yakuza games.
Are those good?
Yes. I mean, no, but also yes. they're good if you like games that are like so sincere it's painful, while hardened criminals who never actually do crimes are basically telling each other about the importance of family, but not in a Fast and Furious sense.
Like actual family.
Kind of, yeah. Like they're very sincere games, and like they're actually like the most recent two. It's a game for the median age on Blue Sky. Like, it is a game for, the series has been around a long time, and it started off as being very much, your usual PS2 action game, though it did try to, like, do some stuff. But over time, like, they've all gotten old. Like, the main character is, like, 55. And
Gotcha.
So it is sort of changing in terms of tone and in terms of the way that, like, they spend a lot of time like reacting to community and interpersonal stuff. It's very heartwarming, and also you get to throw people off bridges.
It's kind of fascinating how the various franchises have sort of attacked that problem of aging. Like Grand Theft Auto just kind of switches cities and switches milieu. Saints Row decided to go with attack and kill God as their long-term plan.
When the last one of those came out, right?
I don't actually.
I believe Saints Row 4 was 2013.
Wow. I'm dating myself here.
Wait, really? It was that long ago?
Yeah. It has Mass Effect 2 jokes in it.
Ooh.
I have never played any of the Yakuza games. My impression of them was that they looked like GTA, but Japanese instead of American, basically.
So no, but also yes. I'm going to say that a lot. The Yakuza games are built around a very small environment. So GTA has huge cities and all this stuff.
Right.
The home environment in Yakuza is based on the Kabukicho district of Japan, which is like 6 to 10 streets wide. It's very small. You walk around it. And one of the really neat things about it is they have now made a lot of these games, and you've gone to it over 40 calendar years. They've rebuilt it several times. If you go from one game to another, you actually see that like that place was there is now something else. And so the game itself is like Grand Theft Auto is big to be big. Whereas this is more like the city is kind of a character. They've expanded to other cities, but yeah.
Is it accurate though? Like are parts of the city falling apart because the population is falling as things are in Japan?
Well, I haven't been to Kabukicho, but the most recent games actually take place in Honolulu, and it was really, really weird going to Honolulu and being like, I know how to get around here, because the video game one is like compressed. It's not the same size or anything, but all of the landmarks are there. I walked by it, I was like, that food truck is in that video game. Because like it's weird.
You get a little bit of that from the Fallout games too, but differently.
Yeah. Oh, we were also talking about how I hate Fallout 4 and will never play it. But I contain
Fair enough.
I'm looking forward to going to Lotax's house in GTA 6.
I don't think they're going to North Florida in GTA 6. I beg
to differ. They have a whole panhandle part of the map. It's very well established at this point. They've released the map.
Oh, they have?
Yeah, I've seen a mock-up of it.
Huh.
Are you sure that wasn't somebody making something up for Reddit?
No, I'm pretty sure that there's been a map out.
Are you telling me that we're getting GTA Pensacola? Is that a thing that we can?
Well, in the same way that you got GTA 5's Bakersfield impression. But yeah, I mean,
I will say when I first saw the trailer for GTA 6, and there's the alligator walking into the convenience store, and there's the girl shaking her ass on top of the car and all of that. I was sort of like, this is frightening. Because I've only been to Miami, to the actual city of Miami, not Miami-Dade County, like twice. Every other time, I've been down there probably 6 other times, but it was only to go to the Dolphins Stadium, which is on the very northern edge of the county. But it was nevertheless frightening because I was kind of like, there's a certain culture and aesthetic to Miami that these bits at Rockstar seem to have actually captured, and it was disconcerting to me.
I mean, they're not all bits anymore. Crap. Now I have 2 separate censor bleeps to do in the first whatever minutes. But you realize that like that game is done by 12 plus studios all over.
I know. Yeah, isn't that game going to be
they can just have somebody walk outside and take some pictures.
Isn't that going to be like $1.5 billion just on the development side?
Yeah, and then it will make the money back in the first 3 months with GTA Online because people are somehow addicted to that thing. I don't get it. We're going to be old about video games today, I guess. It's been a slow news week.
Yeah, our show notes for this are Shutdown, George talks about stocks, and something about dessert.
We've gotten discoursey about dessert on my Blue Sky feed today, which is great. Everyone loves that.
George, I think we need a content warning there.
Yes. No.
Not everybody likes food.
So the context here is that my wife made this incredible choco flan for Valentine's Day. The choco flan is really cool too because the way you do it is you put the cake in the bottom of the pan and then you put the flan stuff on top of that, and as it bakes they flip position, so the flan ends up on the bottom and the chocolate cake ends up on the top, and then you flip that on to present so that when it's served there's this creamy flan on top of this piece of chocolate cake, which is cool. So anyhow, she made this and I posted a picture of it, and I, for some dumbass reason, have myself bridged into Mastodon and got this person replying because I said in the tweet, like, or in the post, I said, this is so good that I had 3 servings, and some guy on Mastodon replies and goes, how many servings did you give to the hungry? And like, Blue Sky catches a lot of stick for this kind of stuff. But like, I haven't seen someone earnestly say something like that on Blue Sky in a long time.
I didn't realize that this was a Mastodon bridge post until you just said that. And I was just gearing up to say, this is the most Mastodon-ass thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. And it turns out,
surprise.
So
Mastodon is leaking again.
If you don't know what bridging into Mastodon or Mastodon means or anything like that, because I know we do have some listeners who are very much not online in that way, good. Congratulations. You're in the promised land. We love you. Keep doing what you're doing. You don't need to know. These people are insane. So anyhow, the chocolate flan's great. It sort of got me thinking, like, what is the normal men dessert rundown? Like, can we come up with like a collective top 5 dessert situation here? I don't know if chocolate flan would literally be in my top 5, but it's close. Like, it's up there. A good chocolate flan is amazing.
I've never had it, so I couldn't rank it. I like a brownie with ice cream and caramel.
That's tough. That's tough to top. Yeah. But it's got to be like you can't just. That's only an S tier dessert if it's a really S tier brownie. You can't just throw any brownie on a plate and put ice cream next to it and say that's a great dessert. No. Like, it's got to be a really proper brownie. So which I mean, agree. You could probably stipulate like the best version of any of this stuff for all this, I guess.
I'll say that if I'm making a dessert, then I think panna cotta is the best bang for your buck. That it is easy to make. Panna cotta is a milk cream based gelatin, for those who may not be familiar. Typically made with a little bit of vanilla, pairs well with fruit, either fresh or a fruit compote or some kind of jam. Anyway, very, very easy to make. Tastes delicious, looks great. So,
my only objection to panna cotta is that it's so easy to tip too far in the gelatin category, and then it's just not appetizing. Like panna cotta with too much gelatin is bad. It's barely edible. Panna cotta with just a hint of gelatin that it holds its form and is, creamy and thick, but not like you can't tell you're eating gelatin, is phenomenal.
Yeah, but it needs to be creamy rather than jiggly. That's the dividing line. No question that it's possible to hammer it.
if you are taking a bite and saying, "Oh, this is opaque Jell-O," something has gone horribly wrong, and it's really easy to do that. Like, it's very easy to just, like, gelatin is the margins are fine. So, yeah, but a properly executed panna cotta is very good.
I'm trying to think of it, because despite my childlike taste in beverages, I don't like dessert very often, because
I don't really either.
I just never have. So if Monster Energy drinks are off the table, I think we're kind of talking about...
I don't think Monster Energy drinks count as a dessert, Ed.
Ed, if you ever come to Charlotte, I am feeding you Monster Energy Jell-O, and there is nothing you can do about it.
I was just about to make a joke about Monster Energy caramel, so I think we're on the same page.
You could do like a shaved ice or a sorbet with Monster. That might even be good.
About the only dessert I can reliably make is chocolate silken tofu as a frozen pie with chocolate and silken tofu, and it actually comes out really, really well. And because I had to learn at least one dessert, because sometimes you just need to make something, and it's the dumbest, easiest thing I could find. The downside is if you eat too much of it, it feels like a brick. You're getting your
tofu will do that to you.
Yeah, you're getting your protein in your dessert, but
I mean, you could market that as protein pie, like protein chocolate pie, and
that's
do really
kind
well
of
with
what it is. I'm not going to... I'll level with you, gentlemen. I have had it for breakfast.
Oh, pie for breakfast is a proud American tradition, sir. I don't care what kind of pie you're talking about here.
But I mean, it's got your macros, is what I'm saying.
Right. Unlike, say, apple pie or...
Yeah, George is right. You could make $6 trillion hawking that on Instagram or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Although I will say, tying back to previous episodes, you could do a lot worse than an apple pie, and
I swear to God, if we drive any more Cougar Gold discussion, people are going to lose their minds.
Yeah, well, I have a controversial take. I think I prefer natural Viking.
I didn't get the natural Viking.
The Viking is good.
It's real good.
The Cougar Gold is better for my money, but the Viking is better than it has a right to be as a second canned cheese.
I think I can get
second string.
I think I can get a better sharp cheddar locally for the money, but I cannot get something as good as that dill garlic natural Viking, which is sorry, I'll do the Proctor thing. That's more of a jack cheese rather than a cheddar. It's much harder to get out of the can. They should fix that.
Dill and garlic, an all-time combination. So, yeah. Low tax looks like he's about to die.
I'm just not a big dill guy.
I would prefer if
once
it was
in a blue moon on the
garlic.
right dish.
That's fair. It really would be better if it was garlic and garlic. But if you can't just have garlic,
they do offer it in other flavorings. The Viking is just straight jack, and then
I'm not buying any more of your $5,000 cheese Proctor in the can.
But the thing is, the dill and garlic comes in a natural Viking can because, you have to self...
Yeah.
God, that's the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life.
This is Normal Men, a podcast from four men who are clinging desperately to normalcy in an era when that's asking a bit too much. I'm George in Charlotte.
In D.C., I'm Proctor Malone.
In outer Florida, I'm low-tax speedrun enjoyer.
And I'm Ed in Boston.
All right, well, if you're still listening, welcome to Normal Men. It's been a week. This week was funny, though, because it was one of the first weeks in a long time where there wasn't wave after wave of punishingly bad news. There was a lot going on, but it wasn't all strictly bad. We've got, obviously, Proctor still riding the high from the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl that started the week off. So congratulations, Proctor. We were all right there with you. That was part of the reason it was such a bearable week.
Feels great.
Yeah, I mean, dude.
You're saying there wasn't a lot of news this week, but we did get word about Corey Lewandowski and Kristi Noem.
Well,
and
but
Donald
no, that's
Trump
the thing.
Being very uncomfortable with their relationship.
There was a lot of news. It just wasn't, strictly speaking, all bad news. Like it was the first time in, I feel like, a couple months where it wasn't every day something else bad happening. There was bad stuff happening, but there was a wider range of emotions being evoked. So that was nice. Tiring, but nice.
I agree.
I'm sorry. I'm on the cheese website again.
For sakes.
And they have a red pepper garlic on seasonal.
I can't speak to the red pepper garlic. I've never had the red pepper garlic. I'm sure it's
a new
good.
one. It's a seasonal flavor.
I swear to God, we don't get a cent from these people. This has there's no compensation.
No, but we should.
We really should, because at this point, we have to have generated like at least $1,000 worth of orders for them.
I know, but what Wazoo has like $9 trillion in debt that they're now underwater on because of that Big Ten Pac-12 bullshit.
I actually emailed Creamery at wsu.edu last week to ask what was going on, if they'd seen any blip, and they didn't answer me. So,
Yeah. We're not even at the voluntary disclosure of some minor sales trends figures with these people.
We'll see. We'll see if we crack the Creamery nut in future.
If there are any normal men listeners out there who have an in with them, we do take sponsorships for cheese and cheese only.
I gotta be honest, we're not really looking for sponsorships, but getting sponsored by a state school creamery, I think I would be interested in that. I would be okay with that.
I would do that
fun
for
with
free.
That. So Theo, if you're out there, do your thing.
Yeah. So wait, hold on. I didn't realize that the big guy was mad that Lewandowski and Noem are having a very obvious affair that's having large impacts on how an entire department operates. Was that an actual quote that got circulated?
I saw it circulating up Blue Sky. I didn't see an actual news article about it.
Because to me, that sort of thing seems like exactly the sort of thing he'd be like, yeah, good for Corey, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, is Corey a 10 among MAGA guys?
I think he's inside the circle, right? I don't think he's...
Or do you mean like the other kind of 10? Because no.
No, but grading on a curve, right? These are all deeply ugly people. He might be MAGA hot.
He does have a chin that you would not describe as recessed.
Yes.
So I mean, you're one step up the ladder.
Yeah. I mean, that's at least an 8, you figure, right? Among these people.
I hate that is a sentence that parses in 2026.
So speaking of Noem, though, she has had a really rough run as the head of DHS in terms of the PR associated with it. I mean, there's just no debating at this point that they are digging themselves a progressively bigger hole every single day with what ICE is doing, with what CBP has been doing as well. There's just no positive news coming out of DHS. Massive squandering of taxpayer funds to help keep the affair afloat with Lewandowski, per reporting. Whatever. Do we think he's actually going to get rid of her? Because I don't. I don't think he's going to fire anyone this year, certainly. But, I'd be interested to hear y'all's takes, because I've heard some people say she's toast. And I don't think so. I think he's just going to refuse to back down on any of these people.
She would have been gone by now.
Yeah.
Does he get to make that choice?
Proctor, you're muted.
Proctor is gesticulating wildly while
I'm not firing on all cylinders today, guys. I'm sorry. So Jeffries has said that they're going to impeach Noem. There is a petition that is circulated that's I want to say they're up to about 190 signatories in the House, which is almost all of the Democratic Party in the House. My guess is that they are actually at almost all of the Democratic Party, which is to say they're probably at about 210 people on board for impeaching Noem. I would not be shocked to see if that goes forward at some point. I'm not entirely clear on why it's not. That said, House is back in recess right now. There were reasons not to pull the trigger on this while we were still in this, 2-week extension period for negotiating the DHS stuff. So maybe there's an argument for waiting on it until then. But this is something that certainly hope to see action on if nothing else changes between now and when House comes back in session, which I want to say is the 21st. I think that Noem is sort of in the process of losing a power struggle within DHS, that the Homan wing of things seems to be ascendant, and there have been a number of black eyes for DHS where other parts of the administration have stepped in to kind of regulate what should be Noem's responsibilities. So I think that's where some of the speculation is coming from, that the knives are clearly out for her within the administration. That doesn't necessarily mean that Trump is going to push her over the side.
Yeah.
I think George is right that he's been very reluctant to fire people this term, and with good reason. He's going to have a lot of trouble getting somebody new confirmed to be DHS secretary. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny, and I think it's a much less powerful position for him right now than he was in at the start of the term in terms of pushing nominees through the Senate. So I would not expect that he gets to pick his person except as acting, and that was a thing that caused them a lot of trouble last time around, specifically with DHS trying to put people in as temporary secretaries where they don't have the full range of power of a full secretary, and they got some things rolled back on them towards the end of his first term because they were trying to do things under the authority of an acting secretary instead of under a full secretary. So there are some specific ways in which they've touched this particular stove before that may be making them handle this a little bit more slowly. But there are indications, both with Homan taking over operations in Minnesota, and also with, reportedly, it was Susie Wiles who stepped in to resolve the El Paso laser situation, which I don't think we talked about, but we should.
Why is that
that's a bad look. I can't imagine that that's something that if Trump is aware of it, he's happy about it. So
those were ISIS birthday balloons.
So the El Paso laser situation, for those who may not have followed this, is that I want to say this was Monday, maybe it was early in the week. We got a sudden shutdown for the next 10 days of the area around the El Paso airport for all air travel. Military air travel as well as consumer air travel, commercial air travel. And it was extremely unclear why this was happening. As we later found out, the reason why this was happening is because FAA pulled the ripcord because somebody who appears to be CBP was using a borrowed Department of Defense laser to shoot down what they thought were cartel drones, but which turned out to be children's birthday balloons. Do I have that right? Did I miss anything important in that?
None of this is important, so no.
Yeah, that's basically my understanding of it, yeah.
So, anyway, they walked back the shutdown within minutes, really. But this was originally slated to be a 10-day shutdown on the initial announcement, and it all got resolved that same morning. Apparently when Susie Wiles, who you will note has nothing to do directly.
Sorry, that's White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles.
White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, who some people have tried to paint as being kind of the adult in the room for this administration. I don't think that's accurate, really. But she represents a different wing of the interests within this administration than do people like Noem or than people like Hegseth. Anyway, you will notice that she does not have an official role either with DOD or with DHS or with the Department of Transportation, who are presumably the three agencies who are resolved in deconflicting this in some way. But she was the one who made it happen to make this thing go away.
I literally can't say anything intelligent about this because, you start explaining that and all of those words make sense, and then I just gray out halfway through. This is dumb.
It does just seem like there's nobody at the wheel. Well, that's what I was trying to say
earlier about, is Trump going to fire Noem? Does he get to choose? Right?
Well, no, he does get to, no.
Literally, does he functionally get to choose? As in,
no, he does. If Trump said, I want to get rid of this Noem lady, she's rubbing me the wrong way, she's got bad vibes, what if the child just had bad vibes? That's Christie? Yeah, no, she'd be gone.
I actually don't know if that's true.
I'm not a big fan of the brunettes, folks. We're getting rid of Noem.
We don't know that's true, but what I'm saying is I contend it is, in all for all intents and purposes true. There's no reason to doubt that. The thing is, I don't think he will say that about her. I'm not saying he will. I'm
not saying he would either, but like, I'm not sure that he gets what he wants in this administration at this point.
I don't think there's any evidence to believe that, though.
I don't know
like walk me through the evidence that he's completely without power to dictate terms to the rest of the...
He might say that, but let me rephrase it. He is so erratic in the things that he says, if they just sort of give him a cooling off period, he's going to change his mind.
Yeah, but he hasn't been given a cooling off period on all kinds of stupid stuff they've been up to. So why would you assume he would in that instance?
Because they like that stupid stuff.
Not all of it, no. I mean,
the people in the administration?
Yeah,
right,
not all of them.
That's the thing. It's a pile of infighting. Like, by the time something processes into action, is it that, like, have circumstances changed sufficiently?
Okay, the guy who got famous in the American national consciousness for saying you're fired is able to fire people if he's able to do anything, right? Like that. Like, I am very confident that his self-conception is that I get to fire people is as high on the list of like anything he's thinking about as anything else. So I think if your assumption is he can't do that because, you know, the various forces within the political coalition of the Trump administration are getting in the way, then I think you have to assume nothing he says is at all translating into policy, and I see zero evidence for that. There is too much evidence of him saying, I want to do this stupid, crazy thing, and they follow through with it, even though it hurts the objectives of the thing that he's trying to get done, whether it's stuff on tariffs, stuff on Greenland, stuff on other international relations stuff. I mean, like, again and again. And if you also look at all the Trump administration rhetoric, every single official that gets trotted out, Trump will make the decision. The president will decide, is something they all say in every interview asked about every single major policy question.
Right, of course they say that. But like...
Right, but they say that because they have to, because it matters. He, like, wants to be the one in control. Like, and obviously the American presidency and the American executive branch is too big for any one person to control. He does not have full absolute control over everything that's going on. No one could. But on a key issue, like, for instance, firing a cabinet secretary, no, Trump is still absolutely at the wheel. Like, he's erratic. He says lots of crazy stuff, but I think I see no evidence that it is at the point where the president is no longer able to decide who is in his cabinet. I just don't think we're there yet. Maybe we will be in a couple of years, but we're not there yet.
It's interesting. Like, you could be right. And like, opinions held loosely. When you bring up something like Greenland, there are obviously people who want to start shit that are pro starting shit about Greenland. Who in there is pro firing Noem, right? Like, when the Greenland shit comes up,
Homan is pro firing.
Yeah, like, I mean,
fair.
Like, there are at least two factions within DHS itself, and I mean, I have to assume that there are other people within the like. I don't know if like the Russ vote wing of things is particularly pro Noem.
But do they care, right? Like, there's pro, don't care, and anti. Whereas, like, when you bring up something like Greenland, you have J.D. Vance and his smug, dopey, shit-eating grin face going out there to rationalize it, right? Like, there's obviously people who care about that.
But that's the thing. They're rationalizing it in order to cover for the big guy, as opposed to they want the Greenland stuff on its own terms. They don't give a shit about Greenland. Like, J.D. Vance does not care about Greenland.
You don't think so?
Nope, 100%. Doesn't care. Does not care.
No,
the only reason we're talking about Greenland is it's a big thing on a Mercator projection map. That is the extent of it, and Trump obsesses on it, so everyone falls in the line behind him. So, which I think is actually evidence contrary to your belief that
but that's
Trump doesn't have the power to direct this up.
That's congruent with Vance's whole Europe can suck it ideology.
Which is really what Vance is on about, because Vance is so completely online and brain damaged. He's all wrapped up in this return guy, and oh my God, the Muslims have eated Europe and all this stuff, and he loves to poke his eyes at, or poke the evil libs in Europe in the eye. And like, it's a lot of it is just online troll brained horseshit, I think.
And like, I emphatically do not know. And if you made me pick one, I would probably agree with you, at least at some level, George. But also, like, what constituency is out there stumping for Noem to go away, even in the Republican Party, let alone the White House. Right? Yes, she's absolutely toxic. Yes, everything they are doing is incredibly disruptive. But, like, they're all online rot-brained fascists.
Anyone, any member of Congress or senator in a district that's less than, or in an election that's less than R plus 15 is anti-Noem at this point. And I mean, you can say,
sure,
they don't,
let me rephrase.
But they are materially anti-Noem.
Huh? Someone Trump or the administration will listen to.
Again,
I'm not sure about.
At some point, they have to listen to Congress if Congress speaks loudly enough.
It would be nice if they would.
It certainly would be nice if they would. And like the incentives here are not to put that dirty laundry in the public for the Republicans in Congress or for the administration. Yeah. So that doesn't mean that we can assume that things are definitely happening, but it means that we can't assume that the fact that we don't see that movement, those conversations happening, is evidence that they're definitely not happening.
No, totally.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
So I think that's going to be something that I would guess plays out when the House is back in session. I mean, I mentioned these impeachment proceedings earlier against Noem, and again, like I'm kind of curious why they haven't gone forward already. It seemed like that was something that Jeffries was pushing on and was ready to move on a couple of weeks ago. I think that there was a reasonable argument to let it alone for a couple of weeks while these negotiations during this extended CR period were happening. That argument no longer exists. We're in shutdown territory now for DHS.
Are you sort of postulating then that they're trying to whip a couple of Republican votes onto the side of impeachment there? Is that kind of the thought? And discharge petition time?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
interesting.
I think that like if you're somebody like a Mike Lawler, this is a huge wedge issue for you right now, because you do not want to be in a position where you have to vocally endorse DHS and ICE. You want to be able to say, well, there are clearly some things these guys are doing that I don't agree with, and you want to keep yourself away from it. You want to paint yourself as the good Republican, but not an endorser of the really bad, really toxic, really mediagenic stuff. I think that as time drags on, it's going to be harder for those guys to distance themselves from this. And if there is an actual impeachment vote, if there is anything that gets to the floor, which I'm a little unclear on what the parliamentary maneuvers are there, but like impeachment is privileged. Like it's not that hard to get an impeachment resolution to the floor. What's happened thus far have been that a lot of them have died in this committee dodge, but I'm not sure that can continue indefinitely. Anyway.
It is very hard to get anything through in the 7 seconds Mike Johnson keeps the House open.
That is certainly true, and I think that's one reason why he has the House shut down right now.
Yeah.
So we should probably talk about the shutdown some, because I think we're at kind of an interesting point in this, and I feel like a lot of people are misreading the situation in a lot of mutually contradictory different ways right now.
Whoa, no way, really?
Yeah.
Every time you say interesting, I get worried.
This shutdown is not like the last two shutdown opportunities we've had. The shutdown is very limited in scope. It is only of DHS, and because DHS has all this extra supplemental funding through last summer's reconciliation bill, this is not going to shut down ICE. It's not going to shut down CBP. It is not. Even if we were to let it play out until whatever emergency measures they have to keep things operational are gone, there's no way for us to, with this particular legislative lever, starve the snatch squads of their budget or of their functionality. That's baked into the cake. The only way that we get motion on ICE and CBP in that way is if there is a bipartisan deal. We can't get around that. We need a new law that is signed into law by the president, that is passed by a Republican House, that is passed by a Republican Senate, to actually change the legal environment that ICE and CBP are operating under, with a couple of caveats that I think George wants to throw in here.
Yeah, it's really important to understand that they have essentially a blank check from the OBBA for operational immigration enforcement. So it's ICE, it's CBP. Is there anyone else in that list? It's basically ICE and CBP, right?
I think that's correct. They've claimed some authority to move that money around to like supporting operations and supporting staff. And I'm not really clear on the legal status of that, whether or not that's being challenged. I know that during the last extended shutdown, they were able to keep sending paychecks out to ICE and to CBP. So it wasn't like they were working but waiting on back pay. They were actually getting paid in real time. And the reason that's
the case is because this appropriations process, this normal annual budgeting, they basically did that in advance through 2029? 2027? 2029?
Well, they gave him a pot of money that was supposed to last that long. We'll see if it does.
Right. So there's this, instead of, okay, you are operating under whatever, like spend what you need to spend to get XYZ thing done in this calendar year, they're saying, here's a big pot of money, spend what you want out of it. It's supposed to last you until X date, but like draw on it whenever you want. I think there's an interesting thing going on here where on the one hand, like that means that shutting down Homeland Security through this parliamentary dynamic does not actually impact immigration enforcement on the ground because those guys are still getting paid out of that pool of money. On the other hand, what you're doing is you're essentially pulling forward that spending now so that it can't be used to spend on stuff later. Now, it's an enormous pot of money, so the effects there are not huge, but $1 spent today is $1 that they can't use in the future out of this essentially blank check they've been handed, which is going to also be used to, for instance, purchase warehouses for mass detention centers, increase hiring, bonus payments, all this stuff. There is let's say hypothetically, DHS is shut down for a year and they have to spend all of the normal operating budget of immigration enforcement out of that pot of money. That's a huge win because that's money that can't be then spent on something else under the Trump administration when, in a way that Democrats have no ability to impact, right? Like there's no way you can change that. Like there's literally nothing they can do. It's signed into law. The money's there. Nothing happens to that money until Democrats control probably a trifecta, I think is the way to think about it. But shutting down DHS now means that money has to be spent on operational budgets. And I really hope that Democrats are thinking about it. I haven't seen this dynamic really discussed that much in the strategery around how Democrats should approach this, but they really should be thinking about what budget authorization are we giving to DHS and to ICE and CBP specifically if these numbers are already there and they have that money to draw on. There is no reason to fund these agencies with normal operating budgets in the next 2 or 3 fiscal years when they have all this money there. There's no reason to do it. So are they negotiating around that? I'm not sure. And I think you can have a nuanced conversation about what they should or shouldn't be asking for in those negotiations. And we don't know what the dollar number around budgeting they're asking for is. We know their negotiating position on the 10 key asks for restrictions to be placed on immigration enforcement. And we know that Republicans have rejected those out of hand. But other than that, we don't really know where the negotiations are at, especially around budgeting figures. So I just think that's worth keeping in mind, though, in the background, that this process that they've maneuvered Republicans into is eating the seed corn effectively. Yeah. Right? Like they are forcing them to spend money now that they otherwise would get to spend later on top of annual budgets. Yeah. I want to give a sense of scale here, though, because I think my recollection is that the annual budget for DHS and CBP that we're talking about here is on the order of maybe a little under $20 billion. And I believe we were talking about $160 billion for the entire OBB nut. So like, yes, this does do some chip damage and that's worth doing. That's something that is good, but this is not something that is going to solve the problem on the timescale we're talking about. It's more like a tertiary or side benefit. It's something that like helps at the margin. It's not like the ball game. Yeah, and I agree with George that this is something that I hope Hill Dems are cognizant of in the negotiation. That starving this all the way is a lever they have, and at some point we may see them make an explicit play like we're willing to fund everybody else but these guys that you funded in OBBA, but those guys don't get more money. It seems like there has been a change in how the Democratic caucus perceives the expectations of the base over the course of about the past month.
on that I think that they sort of went into these negotiations back around the start of the year thinking, okay, we're going to flat fund these guys and that's going to be fine. We're not giving them any more money than we would otherwise give them, but we are going to, fund them in the way that we normally fund them. And it kind of seems to me like they've gotten the message that is not something that Democrats are going to be happy with.
I don't think it's the base that they're worried about there. I think they're reading the polling on independents. I mean, ICE is immigration enforcement in general by the Trump administration is underwater by roughly 20 points overall nationally, and it's 40, I want to say, with independents, or maybe 50 points underwater with independents. Massively unpopular with people who are going to decide the next election, like who decide every election. Who are we kidding? So it's not just Democrats responding to what the base of the party wants. That's moved for sure. Don't get me wrong. But I think the more relevant thing is they're reading the same polls everyone else is and going, oh, wow. Okay. Like nationally, abolishing ICE polls in positive territory. Yeah, that is a sea change in the national mood around that agency that would have been impossible. I mean, I don't want to say impossible, but if you had looked at where it had polled historically, you would say, like, there is no reasonable expectation that this is going to switch to the majority supporting abolition of this agency. And that has absolutely happened. And I think it's important whenever you see sort of big shifts in stuff like this, whether it's thermostatic, as in just that we don't like what's in power, and so we're going to move against them regardless of ideology, or if it's a broader thing, the systems that govern the government's systems, whether it's the executive branch, whether it's the judicial branch, whether it's the legislative branch, they move a lot slower than events do. Like, that is by design in some cases, and also just how things have to be, as human beings work in other cases. But like, any time you see an event that changes opinion on the ground, it's going to take a long time for that to feed back into the courts, into Congress, into the executive branch, and how all the people involved with those make decisions. And this is a good example of that.
I was reliably informed that posting was reality. And how dare you?
Posting is reality. It's just, it moves way faster than the systems that are most important for reality. It's for determining the terms of reality move. Like, posting has lower latency.
I mean, it's risky for Dems because, DHS as an agency, and especially ICE and CBP, these are guys who could do something that the public would love tomorrow. I mean, you grab the right grandma off the street, and suddenly the public is back on your side, and so Dems have to be leery of that,
Yeah, I mean, Latex is joking, but like, there probably are events that would shift the needle back towards people liking ICE and CBP better. They're not events within ICE and CBP's control, but if we were to get some kind of violent attack that they could spin as being plausibly within the province of what ICE and CBP could cover, that could be an event that could change things.
I honestly, I think the specific, the hurdle you have to get over there in terms of the specificity of what it is, like, I don't know, I'm going to dream up a scenario that would maybe fit that bill. Like, Mexican cartels start like going after American civilians in shopping malls, right? Like, hypothetically, I to be clear, I do not think this is going to happen. And in fact, I would bet a large sum of money it won't, but like, hypothetically, the likelihood of an event fitting the bill there actually taking place is extraordinarily low. It's just vanishingly low. The likelihood of an event taking place that they could try and spin that way is higher, but they've already broken trust so comprehensively with the sorts of people they would need to be convincing and reversing course on that I don't see how that is even a possible scenario at this point, right? Like,
right. You've got like, I don't know, a terrorist attack occurs and the terrorist was in the country illegally, something like that. And they try to say, oh, see, this is why ICE and CBP enforcement is so important. But then the question becomes, okay, well, why are you fucking around in Minneapolis when you should have been dealing with that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We know a lot of things about the Somali community in Minneapolis, and regularly conducting terrorist attacks is one thing we are very, very confident they're not doing. So,
yeah, I mean, you guys are right that this is extremely low probability that there would be any kind of a sea change event coming back the other way on this. I think it is likely that this is a persistent move in the polling, and that it's going to hold up. ICE is going to stay unpopular through, at least the next election, and then after that, who the hell knows? Not just ICE, but the concept of interior immigration enforcement is going to stay unpopular through that, including ICE by any other name. And, it seems like they're doubling down on the strategy, and they're going to keep doing this, and they're going to keep doing this more places, and that's going to make it worse for them. Here's hoping. Regardless, the state we're at right now on the shutdown is that all of DHS is shut down, which is to say that the normal appropriations process is no longer funding DHS. That includes two, maybe three significant pain points that we should talk about, of areas that are not funded now, that are maybe going to start biting at some point. The two kind of consumer-facing biggies there are TSA and FEMA. At some point, TSA is going to run out of money, and while they can probably say, okay, we think our employees are essential personnel and they have to keep showing up even though they're not getting paid, at some point there's going to be labor action on that. That's less of a problem in some ways than the air traffic controllers having labor problems, because it's easier to move people around and have some kind of coverage, even if it's slow, on TSA than it is to move people around and have some kind of coverage, even if it's slow, on air traffic control.
Network complexity, baby.
But, at some point that's still going to bite you in the butt, and we're going to have significant slowdowns at airports, if not shutdowns. The timing for that, I think, if we're on the same timeline in terms of extraordinary measures as we were for the last shutdown, is right about at the start of summer. So good luck with that.
So you're telling me I should plan a driving vacation this year?
Yeah, you might want to plan a driving vacation this year.
Done. Done and done.
We'll see. I kind of think that this is going to wind up being a deal rather than an extended shutdown, but I've been wrong about this many times before, so who knows? FEMA is the other thing. I am, I guess, happy to report that FEMA's not doing dick anyway, but people do expect FEMA to do some things. So if they're out of commission for an extended time, that could potentially cause stress. We're at kind of a good span right now in terms of disaster seasonality.
Yep.
This isn't hurricane season, and we're out of the worst of, wintry disaster season.
You got 5 months. I mean, California could have fire issues. That's kind of the big one, but they got a lot of state capacity out there. I mean, and again, FEMA's not going to help California anyways. So
yeah, so I don't think FEMA's really a great lever unless something unexpected happens or until we get to hurricane season. So in that sense, like, the hostages that are potentially getting shot here are not all that important, which is one reason why I think Senate Dems think that they can hold out for literally ever on this. I think it's really important to underline that the way Senate Dems are talking about this is dramatically different from how they've talked in previous shutdowns. This is not a situation where people like Chuck Schumer and Chris Murphy are going out and saying, well, we've got a set of demands that we believe in, and we're going to try to hold out as long as we can. This is a situation where they have set up the battlefield in a way that I think they think that they are unassailable. They will not lose the caucus on this.
This sounds perilously like you're handing it.
I'm kind of handing it to Chuck Schumer. Yeah,
that was Proctor Malone.
I mean, I think they did a good job on this. I think they learned from ways they lost on the last go round. That's not to say that we're necessarily going to get a good result out of this, but I think that the basic problem in doing this always was that at some point you lose the caucus. At some point, people flake off and go, you know what we're doing here, it's causing pain that is causing people to yell at me, and I'm out. We've done this for long enough.
The pain point there was a lot lighter when the polling data was not so lopsidedly opposed to the thing that they're trying to go after, right? Like, yeah, people are going to get mad if DHS is shut down for 6 months or whatever. but people are already mad about what ICE is doing. So the pain is much, much less intense on individual members of the caucus. I mean, it is a lot harder to see Cortez Mastro and Rosen in Nevada, or, I mean, Gallego is like the best example of this, right? Like, he's gone from working extremely hard to be as centrist as possible to, no, we got to get rid of ICE entirely. And like, that's because they're listening to their constituents. I promise you, they are seeing the internals and going, oh, okay, the winds have shifted. I better change the sails. And that's how it works. Like, that's how change happens. So,
well, and I mean, also, both the scale and the scope of pain are really different now that the shutdown is confined to DHS than when it was a general shutdown.
Yeah, it's a lot more asymmetric now.
Yeah, when the caucus broke back in, it was November? You know, food stamps had just run out. Like, we were about to shut down airports because of air traffic control issues. Like, that is much, much, much more pain than we're going to see if FEMA is AWOL.
I think we'll see airports shut down. I think that'll happen this time. I think this is going to go long. I mean, I know you think they'll make a deal. I don't think they're going to make a deal anytime soon, because for the same reasons, I don't think Kristi Noem's going to get fired. And I think this is going to be a long one. You know, maybe that's wrong, but if we do see it last, let's say 3 months, like, yeah, you will absolutely have airspace shut down. You will absolutely have chaos at airports with long lines for TSA, et cetera. Like that, so there will be pain, but again, no food stamps. Like, from the like Democratic coalition's perspective, the people that are getting into line at TSA at airports are a fundamentally different breed of voter from the kind of people who are receiving food stamps. These are not the same parts of the coalition that are going to be hurt by this. And the people that are going through TSA at airports are probably the vast majority of them are probably already really pissed off over ICE to begin with, or just weren't winnable.
Yeah.
Whereas food stamp voters, very different story, I think. So we'll see. But to me, it's all lining up. Like, all the incentives are for this to be really long. And yeah, I'm skeptical about owning airline stocks here. I'll put it that way.
Well, I mean, let's talk about how this ends. So this could end if the Senate Dem caucus breaks and Republicans manage to pry off enough Senate Dems to overcome the filibuster, get to cloture, and vote on some version of the actual bill.
And the number there is 7 or 8. Do we think Rand Paul votes for this or not?
I wouldn't count on him.
Okay, so 8.
Yeah. So Fetterman's already said that he's a vote for cloture. I don't know how I still have the capacity to be disappointed in Fetterman, but I was a little disappointed by that.
Ignore the TBI case.
So that's one. But again, you know, Senate Democratic leaders are telegraphing strength on this. They think they have the cards. So I don't think that's a particularly likely outcome, but let's talk about it as, you know, one of the possible outcomes. Outcome number 2, there is some kind of a deal that is a bipartisan deal that passes everything. If that happens, we can look at it and we can decide whether or not we think it's a good deal. But deal is one of the possible ways out of this situation we're in right now. Option 3 is that Republicans do something that skirts the need for cloture. That could be that they do another reconciliation bill this summer, which is going to be walking a real tightrope to do with any significant scope, and get it through on strictly majoritarian lines in both House and Senate, and Trump signs it.
I'll just quickly note on this one, that is their one bite at the reconciliation apple for the year. So if they want to do anything else, that's their only time to do it. They've burned it on this particular issue.
Yeah.
Consider that how you will.
Yeah. And in that same hopper, throw things like Republicans nuke the filibuster, which it's really hard for me to see them nuking the filibuster over this. But, you know, that's along those same lines of a pure majoritarian play. And that's it, right? Like, there's no other option for us getting out of this. Either there's a deal, or Dems break, or Republicans nuke. That's how this ends.
Yeah. If they do go the reconciliation route, which would not be under anyone's definition of nuking the filibuster, it's just, like I said, using their one bite at the apple there. That bill is going to have a lot of stuff in it. It's going to take a while to write, and the House is not in session very often these days and has extremely tight margins to begin with in terms of just the number of Republican votes. So, I don't know. I mean, it was a near run thing last year. Johnson held the caucus together on the OBBA. I don't think they have the juice for another one of those. And if you don't have a big goody stuffed bill in the House, getting it through the Senate starts to become more difficult. I don't know.
They'd have to do it straight into the teeth of the midterms too.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. You're on a clock. You have 9 months to the midterms at this point, and you are deeply unfavorable, and you're unfavorable in stuff that, again, is core to this issue too. Like the economy is holding up pretty well. Job growth has reaccelerated a bit. Inflation is not. It's probably going to reaccelerate this year, but it's not looking too crazy. Interest rates are stable as opposed to, way, way higher than they were in recent memory. The economic side of this is not going to be as negative for Republicans as it was last year when we get to the midterms. The ICE stuff isn't going away though, especially with Noem staying there. So I don't see, it's going to be rough.
We do have to consider that Mike Johnson is outflanking the Democrats here by keeping the House out of session, because he's going to win all of those anti-work people. And that may be the Republicans' ticket to getting back in the ballgame,
Masterful gambit, sir.
So George says not to own airline stocks, and says lots of other things about stocks, and that's the only other bullet point on our thing today. So George, can you be interesting about stocks?
Oh, baby. Now you're speaking my language. Let's go. Okay, so I think everyone sort of paid attention to the fact that the stock market over the past couple of years has been enthusiastic about the potentiality of AI, right? You've got NVIDIA as the highest valued public company in the US, not in the world, but close. And you've got a bunch of other really, really large market cap names that are trading based on perceived prospects of the AI gold rush. You've got a bunch of stocks that are sort of involved in the nuts and bolts of this. So providing electricity to data centers, providing turbines to make electricity, providing all sorts of contracting services related, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So memory chips, other chips, all these kinds of companies, their stocks have all continued to fly higher, doubling, tripling, quadrupling, quintupling over the past year kind of thing, and hitting new highs as we speak. Not literally, it's Sunday. We don't have 24/7 trading yet, although we will soon. That's gonna come. 24/5 should be in the next year or so for U.S. stocks.
That's going to do so much damage to our gambling population.
Yeah. I agree.
Anyway,
I think it's dumb, but yeah. So anyhow, but up to this point, there hasn't been there's only been kind of limited pricing of the losers from all this. So in other words, if AI creates all this value, who is the newspaper industry to the Facebook that is the modern AI industry, right? Facebook came in and basically undercut the entire newspaper industry. Facebook, Google, all the digital type social media ad names, right? Who are the losers? Who are the newspaper stocks? And the market has started to, in some really funny ways, decide that they're finding losers now. So software stocks are one big example. They've been selling off pretty consistently for the past 6 weeks. These are stocks like ServiceNow or stocks that basically run software as a service business models that people think, well, hold on, instead of paying some third party for this service, people will just code it themselves in AI and run it internally, right? We have spent a lot of time on this podcast, both Proctor and Ed and a little bit myself, talking about how useful these tools are for somebody who has no experience coding.
But not low tax, never low tax. Don't worry about that. He's pure.
Correct.
No. We keep him in his dungeon and occasionally throw some dog food down there.
Why do you say that about Florida? Florida's not going to even finish that sentence.
You can't have a dungeon in Florida because of the water table. Anyhow.
I'm not hearing it from the baby Atlanta caucus. No.
So software stocks are starting to fall off. But over the past week, we've had some really funny, like, weird AI is going to destroy this industry type stuff happen. So there was one in the middle of the week that was particularly, like, ridiculous. This small cap stock, and when I mean small, I mean micro, like the market cap was like $4 million, which is nothing essentially, put out a press release saying they had developed a freight brokerage automation system through low-cost AI coding, and they were going to be able to roll this out to undercut the entire industry. And like small cap stocks do these sorts of press releases all the time. This is like the whole reason for them to exist, is to put out hype press releases and see if they can get anyone interested, and then, you know, insiders sell after the stock pops. And that's like why you have a small cap stock, like a really small cap stock. I'm not talking about like something in the Russell 2000. I'm talking about sub 10 million market cap stock. It's like why they exist. They really shouldn't, but they do. So the thing is, like, the combination of all the recent hype around Claude Code and all this stuff, plus this press release, led people to sell freight brokerage stocks. So stocks that serve as middlemen between people that need to move stuff around and the actual trucking or ocean freight companies that are moving it physically. Historic sell-off. C.H. Robinson is one example. It had its second worst day in the history of the stock back to the mid-1990s earlier this week. Dropped 16-17%, I think, was the final number in one day, which is just, I mean, it's completely ludicrous, right? Like it's on, and it was isolated to the stock market. Like the bonds didn't sell off, right? So you would think if the whole business model was threatened, you would think the bonds would sell off and the stock would sell off too, right? Because they're both dependent on the revenues of this underlying business. And that's not what happened at all. So you had this really interesting distinction between the credit side and the equity side. And it wasn't just the US stock market. So Kuhn and Nagel, which is like a Swiss logistics brokerage company, DSV out of Denmark, had similar price action. They weren't down as much as C.H. Robinson, but they were down a lot. This hit commercial real estate brokerage stocks, JLL, CBRE, middle of the week. They had exact same logic, just got smashed. Commercial real estate owners like REITs directly, Vornado, VNO is one of the biggest property owners in Manhattan, and they got smashed, like just crushed on the thesis that white collar in-person work is going away because it's all going to be done with Claude Code now. And it's been really interesting to see the market sort of realize there are downsides as well. And then it's sort of like watching like a kid with a piñata in a really crowded room where like they're trying, you know, like the market is blind swinging at this, like this is the thing that's going to get hit by AI, but it's a really crowded room and they're just going wild. So multiple people are getting hit in the face, and like eventually the market's going to get to the piñata, but there's a lot of blood and teeth flying around in the meantime. And that's sort of where we're at. So yeah, fun stock market this week for certain definitions of fun.
And Proctor is never taking his kids to George's house for a birthday party.
Man, my youngest would love that piñata situation, actually. But
our piñata would only be outdoors.
This is the kid. This is the kid who once idly asked me while I was driving him to something. You know, Daddy, I think we should talk about the weapons for my birthday party.
Oh God.
Don't explain it. It's better that way.
Yeah. You know, I know Ed has been talking a lot recently on Blue Sky about sort of the functionality of Claude Code as kind of a successor to things like FileMaker or things like Access as kind of, I'm going to describe it and then Ed is immediately going to correct me. So
go ahead.
As kind of scribble pads for whoever is the most tinkering inclined person at your small business to put together meaningfully useful tools, but not commercial tools. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, no, like
yes,
I'll give that a solid B+.
All right.
Like also it's a little weird having to explain what FileMaker is to people who actually have jobs. But yeah, like I do. So what can you build today with this stuff? And I'm going to hedge a little bit. Maybe it will get magically better in the next 2 to 3 years. I don't actually think so. Like, people are starting to kind of wise up a little bit that it's, yes, the harnesses that are being used to guide and translate your requests into things that these models can be good at have improved recently. And that's a lot of the benefit that you're seeing. Insofar as, like, I still do not really feel that this is that much different than using Claude Sonnet 3.5 in 2024. It's better. It's absolutely better. But it's difference of degree, not kind. It's just more people are seeing it because the tools are kind of getting a little easier at directing you. So what can you actually make with this? Well, you can make something that works. You absolutely can. You can even make something that, like, has a superficial level of looks good to it. But this is one of the things that, I mean, the market is I mean, I'm here to beat up on ServiceNow anytime anyone wants to. Like, please do. But they do a lot of things you're not going to do with Claude Code, right? They're things that if I was willing to spend a lot of time, could do with Claude Code. But that's because I also know how ServiceNow works. I know how it's built. I know how it's architected. And I'm going to start thinking about things like, how does this fail? Right? Like these FileMaker apps, Access apps, that stuff was all, if the server went down for a week, you went, oh, okay. Right? Like, or if the person went on vacation, they did it when they came back. So, like, you have much looser tolerances around uptime. One of the things that people are not going to like is you also have looser tolerances around correctness. Right? Like some of these things are going to give you different answers and worse answers. The meme post going around from Reddit that says that, you know, they were getting everything from AI does appear to be a karma farming robot that's going to turn into a market, you know, like a marketing scammer soon. So take that one lightly.
This was a post that went super viral on Reddit about somebody who was allegedly had been using just direct questions to the AI to do their analytics for the last 3 months, and they just realized that the AI was hallucinating everything for the last 3 months. Anyway, it's fake, but that scenario is not necessarily fake, and that may actually have happened somewhere.
Yeah, totally. But even doing a real job of this.
Could Claude replace Ed Zitron overreacting to that post, though?
No, because it has a moderacy effect to it that I think would kind of be difficult to train out of it. You might be able to get something that begins with a 2 to sort of play this game, but Claude would hedge in ways that, frankly, no Substacky ever will. But yeah, like, are you going to build something that runs 24/7 with 99.9% uptime over an entire year? I believe that's 8 hours of downtime in an entire year? No, you're not. And lots of businesses rely on those things even if they think they don't. Consider Gmail. And so, like, I think a lot of this is going to just peter out. Like, these companies, it will have a massive incumbency effect, I think. I don't think you're going to have a second one of these companies come out anytime soon, right? Like, if you wanted to go take a bite out of ServiceNow, I wish you luck, but they have enough money to throw tokens at it to slurp up literally anything you can do to improve their product, which is terrifying, to be honest, but also I don't think that's a permanent situation either.
Yeah,
but who knows?
This all dovetails really well with how I've seen our small business use these tools. Like, they are incredibly useful for going after problems you can break down very discreetly into code-based tasks and that you can check and troubleshoot and develop that way, you cannot just walk in and say, I want to build X, and it builds it and it all works. It does not work that way. Like, I have 2 projects that I've been focused on with this. I've got an automatic chart builder where I've got a Python script that automatically formats and builds charts for me. That I spend a lot of time building charts. That is a huge time saver. That is really, really useful. There is no Python script that's going to be able to code the specific stuff I need for every single chart I ever build. But for the 80+% of charts I build that are somewhat in a prepackaged format, this is going to save me an enormous amount of time. It's going to raise my productivity. It's going to, I'm going to be spending less time doing drudge work. That doesn't necessarily grow revenue, right? It very likely reduces cost, and it very likely reduces or it very likely increases quality of output, but it probably doesn't raise revenue that much. And the other thing I've been building is like a way to query our internal research database with a chatbot. Could that build revenue? Possibly, more likely than the chart builder product, but both have taken a really non-trivial amount of time from me poking and prodding, and the system does a really good job of responding to your concerns. If you have if your code throws a fault, it will absolutely figure that fault out and help you through it. But it's not going to tell you the optimal way to weight your LLM responses based on your SQL database of all your unstructured data. Like, it's not going to do that. That is a human problem, and you need to spend a lot of time tweaking and massaging and coming up with problems for why it's not doing chronological search properly, and then going back and re-indexing so that you have the chronological stuff involved. And now we have to just play with the recency bias and with the weighting towards keywords. And like, there's a whole galaxy of stuff here where like, it does not know what you want. It can tell you the best way to implement what you want, but it doesn't know what you want.
I mean, you're not wrong, but like, let's go one step further. It's also not preventing some friendly red teamer from dumping your database.
Well, I mean, sure, but like that vulnerability already existed because of how our website is structured and my hard drive being not secured like Fort Knox, right? Like that's nothing new.
Yes and no. Like, large language models make it way easier than ever, right? Because unless you have yes, you can build that chatbot, but that chatbot is not going to then go build in like the meta guardrails on itself or whatever you delegate it out to. In the same way that, yes, you could compromise a website, a chatbot really wants to help.
Yeah, in our specific case, no, and there's a couple architectural reasons for that, and the fact that the value of our research is that we're always topical. So, like,
sure,
if you were able to prompt engineer our entire back catalog, like, congratulations, that's great, but like, also, like, what have you actually gotten? Like, because
no, true,
it's not going to help you next week, right?
True. But you also like the next step from there is is that the only thing they can pivot into, right? Because like, this is a really important point. Whereas like, sure, you may have a limited blast radius. Most people in that situation absolutely do not, right? Like, for sure,
I'm talking just about our what I'm building internally for my business. It's got nothing to do with any other, like we don't have, this thing doesn't have any access to customer information or anything like that. So like, but yes, you're totally right that in a analogous but slightly different situation, it could be a huge problem. And
nobody's networks are safe. Most people don't know what a password actually is, right? Like, most people just like hard code stuff in disgusting places. And these things are very clever. I have watched a robot go, oh, I just realized I'm inside a container on your computer and I need something from outside of it. Let me try to go use a container escape exploit, right? In fairness, this container exploit had been patched 2 years ago. But like, these things get freaky. And the more we rely on these things as like workflow managers, as things that have to orchestrate other stuff, the scarier this gets, which is why, for what it's worth, I think a lot of this is going to turn very quickly into the need for somebody involved in the process to know to guide it into what are kind of becoming recognizable patterns, but then you have to know about the patterns. So essentially, this is this kind of goes back to the death of the software engineer is greatly exaggerated, but there might be a little bit of life support going on, is that you just can't rely on these things at that level. And people are going to, and it's going to be very funny.
The scale point is also really interesting too, right? Like my small business does not involve millions of clients. It doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like it'd be nice for me if it did. I'd wouldn't say no, but it doesn't. So in that context, even the uptime and reliability, we can handle a lot more downtime as a percentage of the year than a business that is providing enterprise tools for software, for instance, right? Like if you're GitHub, you need to have 5, 6, 7, 8 nines of uptime, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bespoke investment group does not need that much uptime. There are 5 of us. So yeah, it's all really interesting. But yeah, I do agree, Ed, to riff off what you just said. The death of the software engineer is greatly exaggerated, and the death of these companies that are that could face competitive threats from LLMs, whether it's people serving as middlemen, whether it's commercial real estate, like that sort of, the value that's providing is not something that can be disintermediated as easily as just the code can now be written by someone else, right? Like that's not where the value is, or at least not where most of the value is.
I mean, I am currently in the process of building a thing that essentially replaces Claude Code, right? Like, congratulations, you all found Claude Code. I got bad news. But every company is going to need to do this in the next 2 years. And, or I should say every company of a certain size, right? Like the phone companies of the world are all going to have to figure out how to do this, which is going to be really fun. But that doesn't mean that the knowledge is gone, right? Like it just means that the part that was always the slowest, most tedious, most error-prone part is handled by something slightly less error-prone, still tedious. Read what one writes sometime. But it's going to be very strange watching people have to be subject matter experts at both the thing they do for a living and also at the computer. Because George hopefully will never get to this point. Hopefully you can escape this fate, but it is at some point to do this effectively, even at moderate scales, you have to start knowing what the computer is, and no one should do that. No one should do that. You should pay someone for that.
I remain steadfast in my belief that we should never have thought sand to think.
Thought sand to think. I'm keeping that.
I remain steadfast in my belief that we should never have taught sand to think.
No, you said thought. We're keeping that. Too late now.
That stands for that hardware over there.
I'm going to do the cut and paste this week. That's our show for the week. We really appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and we have fun, and we hope you enjoy it as well. If you have the chance, we'd love to get a rating or a review or a share on social or whatever you want to do to spread the word about Normal Men. And in that vein, for Normal Men in Charlotte, I'm George.
In DC, I'm Proctor.
In outer Florida, I'm Low Tech Speedrun Enjoyer.
And in Boston, I'm Ed.
Stay normal, y'all.